The body hung upside down in a public square for all to see. Crowds stood on cold stone. April 1945. No escape, no dignity left. His final 24 hours ran through fear, desperation, and betrayal. And that was the end. That public humiliation came after the state around him had already gone hollow. By late April 1945, Europe was nearing the end of the war. Germany was collapsing, and Hitler was trapped in his Berlin bunker. The Italian Social Republic was falling apart fast. Mussolini had ruled Italy with absolute power, and now he was a fugitive. Behind closed doors, the offices were empty. Most officials had abandoned him or been captured. Italians who once shouted his name now saw a traitor and a failure. In the ruins of his power, only two exits remained: escape or death. Those exits had already narrowed. After weeks of changing hideouts, Mussolini reached Milan, exhausted, sick, and mentally broken. With his speeches reduced to quiet mumbling, he barely ate. His eyes were sunken, and stomach ulcers and severe depression had worn him down for years. On the 25th of April, in his former stronghold, the South was closing in, and partisans held northern Italy. That evening, he sat through his last government meeting. His ministers begged for surrender. Mussolini refused. The room went quiet. The silence in Milan pushed him out into the night. Late that night, Mussolini and Clara Petacci left the city. They slipped into a column of retreating German soldiers. The German line became their cover. He hoped to cross into Switzerland. From there, he wanted Spain. Francisco Franco still ruled there, and Mussolini believed Franco might shelter him. He was traveling with about 15 high-ranking fascists and close aides. Lieutenant Friedrich Pfeffer von Salomon commanded the German anti-aircraft unit around them. Mussolini shaved his head, put on a German army coat, and pulled a helmet low. He carried a fake ID card. His face had gone blank, and the old confidence was gone. Petacci refused the disguise. She kept her fine clothes, fur, and jewelry. She stayed beside him anyway. She chose loyalty over escape. By morning, the road was already closing. Checkpoints sat everywhere. Every car was watched. Mussolini's group was near Lake Como, close to Dongo, and only a few miles from the Swiss border. They thought the border was within reach. It wasn't. The route narrowed to one road. At around 2 in the afternoon, Pier Luigi Bellini delle Stelle led Garibaldi Brigade partisans to stop the convoy. There was no gap left. No one slipped through that morning. At Dongo, on Lake Como's western shore, the partisans moved from truck to truck. They had already checked every vehicle. The convoy stayed boxed in. The Germans still claimed an official mission. Lazzaro did not trust them. He searched one vehicle and found a quiet German soldier sitting inside. His face looked strangely familiar. Then it clicked at once. It was Mussolini inside the cab. Lazzaro ordered him out of the truck. Mussolini said nothing at first. He stayed seated for a moment, pale and rigid, then climbed out slowly. The disguise had failed completely. The partisans shouted and cheered, then cursed the man who had brought years of war and suffering. Mussolini did not fight back. He did not beg once. Later, Lazzaro became one of the best-known witnesses to the arrest.
Then they searched the rest of the convoy. Several high-ranking fascist officials were still hiding among the Germans. One by one, they were dragged out and arrested. Some even offered gold and jewels for freedom. No one paid. No deal was coming. The partisans wanted justice. Clara Petacci stayed at Mussolini's side. She would not move. She kept begging, crying, and screaming. She begged, cried, and screamed for him to be released. It changed nothing. Mussolini and Petacci were loaded into a small car and driven away. People lined the road, shouting, cursing, and throwing stones at the car. The convoy had been caught.
At dawn on April 28, armed partisans surrounded a small farmhouse near Bonzanigo on Lake Como's western shore. Inside, the room stayed dark and cold. Mussolini had spent the night there with Clara Petacci. His army was already defeated. His government had already collapsed. His people had turned against him. Thousands of Italians had died under his rule. The guards could not agree. Some wanted a trial, others wanted him dead now. It was trial or immediate death. Years of war, suffering, and executions had already settled the argument. German units were still nearby, and delay could still turn into a rescue. The partisans knew that risk. Back in 1943, German commandos had already pulled Mussolini out of captivity at Gran Sasso. The Gran Sasso rescue was still fresh. This time, they had no margin. At dawn, the committee met. Paper rasped in the room. The National Liberation Committee, Italy's leading resistance group, sent out the final order. Mussolini was to be executed immediately, no trial. Luigi Longo, Sandro Pertini, and Leo Valiani backed it. No formal charges. They had spent years fighting Mussolini's rule. No final appeal. They would not risk him alive another day. That order reached the farmhouse fast. Audicio, known as Colonel Valerio, was a loyal communist. He had fought fascists in countless battles. He was trusted to get the job done. A small group of armed partisans went with him. No delay. At exactly 4 in the afternoon, they entered the small room. Their voices stayed flat. Mussolini sat in a chair, head bowed. He looked exhausted, almost emptied out. Petacci was restless beside him. No discussion. She lunged toward him at once. Petacci clutched his arm and begged for mercy. She sobbed without stopping, swore her love, and pleaded for his life. The partisans ignored her. No explanation. The decision was already made. Audicio ordered both to stand. Mussolini complied and pushed himself up from the chair. He did not resist. He knew fighting was useless. Petacci kept crying as they led both out of the farmhouse. Outside, the truck waited. Guards pushed Mussolini and Petacci into the back, and armed men surrounded them. Mussolini sat motionless. Petacci cried and whispered to him, but he gave nothing back. The truck moved toward Giuliano di Mezzegra. It was a quiet place, plain and remote, chosen for distance. The route ended there. No crowd stood there, and no soldiers broke the stillness. No sign of war was left in view. When the truck slowed, the guards climbed down and pulled the prisoners out. They led them a few steps farther, straight toward the stone wall at the entrance of the old villa. At exactly 4:10 in the afternoon on April 28th, Audicio raised his submachine gun and aimed at Mussolini's chest. The trigger clicked. The gun jammed. For a moment, the wall held only silence. The misfire changed the timing. Nothing else. Mussolini did not react. He just stood there, while Audicio threw the faulty weapon aside and grabbed another gun from one of his men. The second weapon fired. Bullets tore into Mussolini's chest, and his body jerked from the impact. He collapsed into the dirt, but he did not die at once. Blood seeped beneath him, and his breath came in short, ragged gasps. Petacci screamed. She threw herself over his body and spread her arms wide, trying to shield him. Audicio raised the gun again and fired straight into her chest. Her body slumped lifelessly across Mussolini, and then the wall went quiet.
The silence at the wall did not end the humiliation. No burial came after that. No ceremony waited at all. The partisans loaded Mussolini, Clara Petacci, and the other high-ranking fascists executed that day onto a truck. The truck bed held them stacked, one body against another. The truck lurched toward Milan over broken roads. The wheels kept grinding below. No stretch came smooth again. Mussolini's body was barely recognizable, with a red-stained uniform, a swollen face, and a chest riddled with bullet holes. Petacci's dress was soaked in blood. It rolled into Piazzale Loreto, a public square in Milan. The truck carried the bodies straight there.
8 months earlier, on August 10, 1944, German forces and Mussolini's fascist loyalists executed 15 Italian partisans here. They dumped the bodies in the street. They left them under the sun. Now revenge came with the truck. Word had already spread through Milan. People poured into the streets. By the time the bodies reached Piazzale Loreto, thousands were waiting. The partisans threw them onto the pavement without ceremony. Men and women rushed forward, screaming and spitting. Some kicked Mussolini's face under their boots. Others fired into his body. A woman pulled out a knife and stabbed him. A man raised a club and smashed his skull. The violence spread fast. It was uncontrollable. At dawn, the partisans made their decision. They chose the same treatment the fascists had used on the partisans they killed the year before. Piazzale Loreto already held that memory, and Mussolini went up, feet first. His ankles took the ropes. Clara Petacci rose beside him. Other fascists hung beside them. The metal beams stood in front of a gas station at Piazzale Loreto, and the hanging bodies made the old punishment visible to everyone below. Photographers stayed close to the beam. They kept shooting without pause. The image of Mussolini and Petacci became one of the war's most famous photographs. The camera did not soften anything. Below, the crowd kept cursing and throwing objects. Some people cheered from below. Some wept. For many Italians, that was the true end of his rule. Not when he was captured, not when he was shot, when his body hung like a trophy in the streets of Milan. Authorities took the bodies down. Simple wooden coffins waited. Trucks carried Mussolini, Clara Petacci, and the other executed fascists to the Institute of Forensic Medicine in Milan. At the institute, doctors began the autopsies. They examined Mussolini in detail and counted 9 bullet wounds across his chest, arms, and abdomen. The fatal shot pierced his chest, broke his ribs, and punctured his lungs. His face was swollen, deformed, and barely recognizable. Petacci was examined too. Doctors confirmed multiple gunshot wounds in her body as well. Staff then sent the bodies to the morgue.
That left the new government with the body. A known grave could draw fascist supporters, and some officials wanted Mussolini destroyed completely. Others feared the same thing from a different angle. A grave could become a shrine. So the authorities chose an unmarked grave. No marker, no name, no rallying point. Just silence. The aim was to end the dispute before it started.
On April 23, 1946, almost exactly a year after his execution, Mussolini's body vanished. Fascist supporters broke into the cemetery, stole the remains, and disappeared into the night. Rome did not get peace, it got chaos. For 4 months, the dictator stayed missing. Rumors spread fast, with some sending him to Rome and others hiding him in the mountains. The authorities launched a wide search, checking every lead and finding nothing. Whispers kept returning to Rome, then back to the mountains. In August 1946, they finally found the remains inside a small monastery near Milan. The thieves belonged to a radical fascist underground movement. They wanted a grand burial, built to restore Mussolini's image. They wanted to restore his image. They failed. The government took the body back quietly. It locked it away in a secret place, under tight security, for more than a decade. Both supporters and enemies were shut out.
1957. The body went back to the family. Prodapio received the remains. The town sits in northern Italy. He was buried in the family crypt. In a modest chapel, a simple marble slab marked the burial. The slab stays plain. The grave still divides Italy. Most of the country rejected fascism, yet the tomb keeps drawing thousands of supporters every year. Some leave flowers, some give salutes. Mussolini's execution warned other fascist leaders too. 2 days later, Hitler killed himself in his Berlin bunker rather than face the same end. Thousands still come to the grave.